this video, I'm going to describe the constructing evidence-based explanations practice in the context of the On a Budget data puzzle. So the goal of this practice is for students to be able to finalize new understandings about science ideas as they relate to the investigative question. They're going to do this by constructing explanatory models. So in this practice, we encourage you have students construct these models either individually or in pairs. Before students construct the models, it can be useful to build a gotta have it checklist together. So students have engaged with an opening scenario prompt, an interactive reading, analyze the data set. So there are a lot of things going on here for students, and it's important to kind of slow down, give students an opportunity to reflect about all that they've done, and for them to collaboratively build this gotta have checklist, thinking about the different concepts or ideas that must be included in a model to explain the investigative question. Why might the Arctic be warming faster than other places on Earth? What evidence might they have from the reading or from the data set to support those ideas or concepts that should be included? So by creating this list, this is important scaffolding that will lead to more successful model construction. And then it's important also to review with students if they may not be familiar with, like, what a scientific model is and what different signs and symbols, these modeling conventions, could be useful for them to communicate ideas in this model, which for data puzzles, models are annotated sketches. So after analyzing that data set, now students are ready. Now it's time to construct a final model for the investigative question. Why might the Arctic be warming faster than other places on Earth? So what should be included in a final model, and what does that even look like? So we found that it can be useful to look at an example of a model together before having students construct their own. And so the example that we include in the slide deck, and one that I've used in the past with my former students, has to do with Marvel movies, in particular the Black Panther movie. Before we get into that example, thinking about what a model is, it's a way to visualize explanations to questions, and different things that should be included in models are different parts or concepts, connections between these parts and concepts. How do they relate to one another in the system? And then any data or evidence that you might have to support your thinking. So challenging students to identify these different components within this example about the movie, the Black Panther, in particular about the question, why does the Black Panther get stronger after being punched? And so we can see some different modeling conventions, a key being used to show the element vibranium being mined and then incorporated into Black Panther's suit over time, some text boxes, among other modeling conventions. So a good way to inspire conversation and intrigue among students before they're asked to construct their own model. We have had some teachers print out this particular slide to share with students. These are different signs and symbols that can be useful to connect relevant parts, arrows to show the movement or connections, keys, so that we can use symbols to represent different ideas, zoom in windows to show what's happening on really small scales, timelines, text boxes. So different conventions that can be useful for modeling. Before students go into the modeling practice, we'll pause quickly, give students an opportunity to create a list of different concepts, ideas, and evidence that they think need to be included in a final model for this question. Why might the Arctic be warming faster than others? There's a place on the student worksheet for students to jot down their ideas, and it can be useful then, once students have their individual or small group ideas, to co-construct a whole class gotta have it checklist where student groups or individuals are sharing ideas, and before they go up on this whole class list, everyone's got to agree with it before it goes on the whole class list. So important scaffolding before moving forward to that final model. Then students have the opportunity to construct their final model. So they should refer to that gotta have it checklist and make sure that all of those things that are on that checklist are included in their final model. So students would be annotating this graphic here on their student worksheet, what's going on in the year 2000 compared to the year 2021. How have things changed? Why is it so much warmer in 2021 than the year 2000? Thinking about the Arctic energy budget and the amount of energy coming in and the amount of energy going out. So that's what we would expect to see students thinking about when annotating this graphic. And we'd encourage you to check out the answer key for some other ideas about what we're thinking students will come up with. After students construct their final models, it can be important to give students an opportunity to share their models with one another. Learning is collaborative, and so we want students to be learning with and from one another. And so one way that we have had teachers facilitate this is through a gallery walk, where students might leave their models on their desk or they're taped around the room, and students have an opportunity to circulate and check one another's models out. There could be sticky notes students have where they could ask questions and stick them to their peers' models, or things that they like, or other things like that have been used by teachers as well. And after the sharing of these models, there's a kind of extension question to get students thinking about the why, or connect to another phenomena or social justice issue or something happening in their community. And so in this particular data puzzle, what we come to understand is that Arctic temperatures are rapidly rising. It seems to be related to the amount of outgoing long wave energy, the amount of heat that's being released by the Arctic. And so why is the amount of heat that's being emitted by the Arctic, why is that increasing? And so we ask students to consider how the decline in Arctic sea ice might lead to an increase in the amount of heat that's emitted. And so this graphic here, prompting them to think about, maybe sea ice reflects incoming solar energy better than the darker ocean water. How might that decline in sea ice lead to more energy being absorbed by the darker ocean? And energy that's absorbed is also re-emitted. And so getting them to think about that. And this could be a data puzzle that provides a nice segue to another data puzzle called To Reflect or Not to Reflect, where we actually have data that shows how the albedo, the reflectivity of the Arctic, has changed with the decline in sea ice. That concludes the On a Budget data puzzle.